Historically and by many, this game is considered to be not only the classic Famicom and Mario title from the famous Nintendo franchise, but also one of the best retro games of all time for certain people. Super Mario Bros. 3 certainly was the must Mario game to play for on the Famicom, following the first two installments of the beginning of the franchise. With its success with both first two Mario games for both regions in Japan and United States, it was a no-brainer that third installment was necessary. And Nintendo had to prove themselves that Mario Fever was still real. And Nintendo definitely proved themselves that Mario Fever still lived and, well, possibly kept it alive till this very day. The third installment of the classic Red Plumber series not only vastly improved upon the previous two Mario games, but it also introduced many new exciting and innovative elements that further pushed upon the legacy of Mario games. Following to the previous two Mario games' success, Nintendo knew that the third game had to be bigger and innovative for its franchise. Furthermore, for the second installment, at least for the Japanese region, both Mario 1 and 2 didn't really seem to have huge changes, and it was way too similar to the first one with the minor changes. Shigeru Miyamoto knew it had to be different. Super Mario Bros. 3 was released in Japan in 1988, and 2 years later, prior to the Japanese release, it was unleashed in the United States. And it was a groundbreaking success for Nintendo. And Mario 3's initial release and massive hit showed that the developers really devoted their passion into creating this massive game. So how mesmerizing the third installment of the Red Plumber's adventure was? Well, we'll be taking a look at this journey. Mario 3's gameplay still keeps the basis of the simple goal of saving Princess Toadstool or Princess Peach, but as well as saving 7 kingdoms whose kings were cursed by the Bowser and his magic wand that's also kept by his 7 Koopa kids, and Mario must retreat those 7 wands back to the kingdom to save the day. This time around, however, it's no longer a simple lenient style of Mario game where you clear one stage, then you moved on to the next level. Players now have a level selection map, the early prototype of the what's soon to be the essential element of the future Mario games. Each map and stage level designs have their own unique themes and elements added up to each world and stage. You still have 8 worlds to progress through in total. Well, technically 9 including the warp zone, but I digress. With that aside, it consists of Grassland, Desert Land, Waterland, Giant Land, Skyland, Iceland, Pipeland, and last but not least, Darkland, where you fight off Bowser. Graphically and musically, it was a huge improvement over the first two Mario games. Bright and colorful environment with the composing piece from Koji Kondo, who previously composed the most iconic jingle of the first two Mario games, once again shines through with its memorable song piece, driving you into the cheerful and relaxing atmosphere of the game. But of course, graphics are not the only aspect to be improved upon from the previous Mario games. The gameplay factor is simply astounding as well. Particularly in the controller department, Mario 3's control scheme is what I consider to be the most perfect controlling method for the essential platforming controls. The right platforming controls, I might add. You feel free with scrolling Mario in this game. Surely Mario games were known for the smooth controls ever since the introduction of the first Mario game. But Mario 3 somehow improves upon with the controls over the first one as well. You feel like you're in control the essential mid-air steering for the Mario game in particular. If the first Mario game was to introduce this concept, then third perfected that idea of controlling Mario game. I found Mario 3's jumping ability to be more smoother, whereas the first game, well, sometimes felt like it was slightly stiff in comparison. Especially when you steer Mario in mid-air, the third game simply feels a little bit more natural, and having to jumping on the enemies with the greater length also makes it satisfying for the players to defeat the enemies with his iconic stomping tactics. Mario's control with jumping ability aside, it has now gotten more actions to perform, from sliding on top of the hills, picking up and tossing the objects to the enemies. It feels like whatever controlling command you give it to Mario, Mario could do literally anything. The game also added more content for the multiplayer mode as well. Unlike the first Mario game, where each player will get the chance to play after the other player dies, in this game, you take turns after each stage. This means that the element of two-player mode certainly makes the game further interesting because you can either cooperate to complete the stage after the another, or you can compete with each other, and let's say if you decide not to play the hardest level, well, you can simply get killed and give it to someone else. Additionally, the multiplayer mode also pays faithful tribute to the 1983 arcade classic Original Mario Bros. As well, where both players could compete against each other for obtaining the cars that they previously obtained from at the end of the stage. Very nice bonus addition to the game. And speaking of bonus rounds, you also have an image jackpot and memory game where you pick two cards for the prize. Depending on the matches, you get your different prizes, for example, such as 1-up. Furthermore, Hammer Bros once again take their action to step in, and if you manage to defeat them, they will give a random items. Personally, I consider Hammer Bros to be the most annoying enemies in the Mario franchise, but I digress, given the fact that they still reward you for the defeat. Speaking of items, Mario 3 certainly introduced a lot of them, new ones as a matter of fact. Your usual suspects such as Mushroom, Fire Flowers, 1-up Mushrooms, and Superstar are still there, but you also have a raccoon suit which allows Mario to fly, but only on the running distances, as you will see on the bottom of the screen. Pressing the A button constantly will allow Mario to fly on the short period of time in mid-air, as well as pressing a B button allows you to whack the enemies with the tail. The alternative P-Wing allows you to fly through the entire stage. However, once you clear one stage after the another, note that it will turn into the regular raccoon suit. Additionally, there's also a frog suit which allows you to swim in the water much faster but slows down on the ground area. Hammer suit allows Mario to throw hammer and guard himself by ducking down into the shell. Goomba's shoe, which allows Mario to walk over the hazards such as flowers and spikes. And Tanuki's suit is essentially the same as the regular raccoon suit, only if you push down and B, you can turn into some sort of a Buddha statue, granting you a brief invincibility. Additionally, there's also an in-map items as well. Warp Whistle, which allows Mario and Luigi to transfer to the Warp Pipe world, granting to choose any world to skip to. Music Box, which allows Hammer Bros to fall asleep on the map, allowing players to skip ahead the Hammer Bros round. Lakitu's Cloud, which allows players to skip ahead one level as pleased. Hammer, which breaks the rocks on the map, and Anchor keeps the airship where it belongs. Most of the items are accessible within entering the Mushroom Shop, where you get to win various items, and now you can even store them and bring it up when it's required to use by pressing a B button on the map screen, and item selection will pop up. Very nice upgrade considering the fact that it's more convenient to carry the items and use it on each different worlds, that certain situation and specific item that you're required to use on the specific level. The usual enemies are still there, such as Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Hammer Bros, Bullet Bill, Akitus with Spike, Piranha Plants, Beetle, Looper, and Cheep Cheeps. But it also introduced to the new enemies, such as Big Bertha that swallows you, Angry Sun that constantly chases back and forth, and it also introduced us to the new Mario enemies that forever becomes the central Mario enemies for the future Mario games as well. You got Thwomp, Boo, Bob-ombs, Dry Bones, and so on. Talking about challenges, Mario 3's level design is simply fair enough, both for beginners and experts for the franchise. Unlike the second Mario game, Japanese one in particular, which was overwhelmingly difficult, whereas Mario 3's level of difficulty is well balanced, unlike the second game where it has, well, frustrated a lot of players. As a matter of fact, the difficulty gradually increases within the level to level. It doesn't push too far like Mario 2, but it's also challenging to endure as the level progresses. Nevertheless, the difficulty level has been significantly balanced over the second Mario game, giving the players far more better experience to enjoy the game. Within the mentioning of difficulties, I should also point out some of the regional differences in which the US version of Mario 3 is actually slightly easier, just from the fact that you get one more extra hit points when you get damaged, whereas in Japanese version, you literally get shrunk in size immediately no matter which item you obtain from. Therefore, the Japanese version is slightly more challenging, I might add, but nothing too crazy to make you go insane about it. Going back with level designs, they are simply fun to traverse but not too overwhelmingly rich environment, but enough to get the player's attention. Not just for the graphical improvements, but overall additional elements added to the game and the stages. Most stages are lenient, but there's also so many areas to explore within the level, and many secret areas are hidden. For instance, you really don't expect to sit on this white platform for a couple of seconds and only to discover that you could leave the stage and to have an access to the room that has the warp pipe. Or how about fly through this castle area all the way up to the ceiling to find the warp pipe? So many hidden areas that you could possibly imagine in this game, and you just come back to it furthermore to see if there's more hidden secret areas in each stage. Factor for the replay value. Not to mention, with add more hills and even vertical scrolling up the level design thanks for the help of NMC chip, multi-memory controller chip, that allowed the game to add more content by pushing the Famicom's hardware. Again, simply fun to traverse, and it definitely stands out from the first two Mario games. Players now, instead of simply jumping on the flagpole, they exit the stage and get the card from the range of Mushroom, Flower, and Star. Matching 3 same packets of the cards will give you the different amount of 1-ups to be granted for. Gives the players to push themselves furthermore with traversing the game. Each world has an end boss round and ship to travel through, and these boss stages certainly pushes you with the constantly challenges of bullet bills, cannonballs, moles, and sometimes bob-ombs, which will drive you crazy with the quick reflex that you will need to avoid all of these enemies. At the end of each boss stage includes 7 Koopa Kits plus Boom Boom for the mid-castle stages. Each of the Koopa Kids have their distinctive patterns and personality added up for the Mario Brothers to challenge them. 3 stumps is while good enough to defeat them, but don't let that fool you that it's gonna be easy, because let me tell you, it gradually gets challenging. And I have to talk about the final World 8 on its own, don't I? The final frontier where you get to defeat King Koopa, the Bowser himself. This is the level where it pushes you furthermore. It doesn't have any of the mushroom houses to gain an access for the items. This is the world where you truly test your skill from the long journey. Given the fact that the game this long doesn't even have a battery backup saves, which means it's a one complete go if you were to beat the game, and this world makes you sweat. Every possible thing wants you dead, and it will drive you insane, sucking all those one-up lives that you've gained from the previous world and journey. It truly pushes the test of your skill and patience to the players, and quite frankly, it's a level where it makes you, once again, sweat. You really can't mess it up in this world. It's a level of test after all. Even with the unlimited continues, it still makes players to push themselves further and further. And by the end of the stage, you defeat Bowser by making him jumping on the bricks 3 times only to make himself fall into the pit, and the gate to the princess's door opens. And finally, at last, you've made it. You've saved your princess and the kingdom, and you've well accomplished it in this big, amazing Mario game. Ending credits showing all the world, making you to reflect the progress that you've been making through all those 8 worlds, all those sweats and struggles, giving players far more satisfaction and making them to realize they've just completed one of the best games of all time. Super Mario Bros. 3 is without a doubt the best Mario game on the Famicom and NES console. Both graphically and gameplay wise, it exceeds near perfection, and it certainly was a big game that Shigeru Miyamoto and his R&D 4 research team was passionate to be involved with. Even on the instruction manual, it was from the Mario staff's letter to fans that they've worked hard to create what's soon to become a huge Mario game on the Famicom, and their love to the work definitely showed and paid well. This respected Mario game would soon not only to be the best seller on the Famicom, but many years later it also got its many ports and re-releases, such as on Super Famicom with Mario All-Star, Game Boy Advance with Super Mario Advance series, and Virtual Console with online re-releases every now and then on the new Nintendo consoles such as 3DS, Wii, and Nintendo Switch. And of course, countless bootleg copies and bootleg ROM hacks uses Mario 3 material for their bizarre hack of an all-time. It was that impactful after all. Jokes aside, it showed how much of Mario's 3 legacy appealed to the worldwide as a whole, and Nintendo made a massive hit on the 8-bit console with the quality game, while other companies such as Sega and NEC chased after new bits. But nevertheless, despite with all the competition, Nintendo still proved themselves to be the king of video game industry no matter what. Until this very day, Super Mario Bros. 3's impact further supported on the Mario's legacy, and possibly it helped pushing it further with the Mario's hype, along with later 16-bit Mario sequel Super Mario World for the Super Famicom and SNES. Super Mario Bros. 3 is not only the essential Mario title to play, but it's also the most essential Nintendo title to be played and respected. Further proves that Nintendo went after quality of the game more than the quantity of the graphic improvements. And this Mario title alone certainly showed their passionate love with the Red Plumber mascot himself and to the fans till this very day.